For years now, there has been a villain battling against Superman from behind the scenes. Mr. Oz. He has been orchestrating so many plots against Superman, trying to prove to Superman that hope no longer exists. And there's a bunch of theories as to who Mr. Oz really is. If you've been waiting for our video, well then here it is, the story of who is Mr. Oz, Superman's greatest villain? Deep within the Argus Weaponization Center sits Subject 2201, also known as Metallo, dissected in several pieces. He calls out for anyone to please come help him. He can't take any more of this pain, and a voice tells him that they might be able to help him with that. So Metallo asks, who is he? The man in the green robes walks forward stating that he is not one of Argus's agents who dismantled and tortured him. But as for who he is, his followers call him Mr. Oz. Oz looks at the piece of kryptonite in Metallo's chest and he says that he can free him, but not in the manner that he is expecting. He then takes his staff, cutting out the chunk of kryptonite, telling Metallo that he will free him from his wretched life. Metallo shouts for him not to do it, and as Oz rips out the kryptonite, he says that he will never use the remnants of his world against him again. Screens begin to appear, and Oz goes on stating that humanity will ultimately expose itself for the sick, tragic, perverted, twisted organism that it is. As for Kal-El, he will soon realize that humanity does not deserve him or his family. Meanwhile, out in Metropolis, Superman secures a vaccine that has been hijacked and driven off of one of the bridges in town. In Superman fashion, he takes it and flies it over to La Gamba where it's needed, saving the day one incident at a time. But as Superman arrives at the Daily Planet to meet back up with Lois and John, Oz continues to work in the shadows. All across the world, his followers are preparing to move his point that humanity is not worth saving. The disgruntled employee who lost his job for immigrants willing to work for a fraction of his pay. The soldiers of La Gamba ready to steal the medicine that Superman had just taken to give to this small town that needed it. The captain of an oil tanker who's been drinking on the job and about to crash the massive boat and contaminate the ocean. Back at the Daily Planet, the world's news outlets all begin to report that all of the stories from across the world are asking for Superman's help. Within seconds, Superman is there to protect one of the immigrants from the disgruntled employee. Then off the coast, he helps pull the tanker out of the water that's polluting everything. And finally, back at La Gamba, he finds the rhinos hunted for their horns. So many things all happening at the same time. It would seem that even that may be too much for the Man of Steel. And as he flies over the village where he left the vaccine, he finds it burning. Its men, women, and children are now all dead. Who could have done this? Why would they do this? Superman hears somebody struggling to breathe, and as he goes to check on him, he asks what happened. And the person weakly says gorillas. As Superman goes to pick them up, he hears something else, and then there's an explosion. Off in the distance, Superman can see a government commander giving orders to fire again. So he races over to destroy the rocket launchers, asking, why are they attacking their own people? But while Superman confronts these soldiers, he hears another whistling sound, and the commander shouts that the gorillas have found them. Another explosion goes off, and Superman shouts, asking, why are you doing this to each other? A voice from the fire tells him, because they are petty, self-obsessed, incapable of looking past themselves to care for one another. You should have realized it by now. These people don't deserve you. They haven't the moment that you arrived. As Superman looks over, he already knows exactly who this is. Oz. Oz tells him, it is time for us to talk, but not here. Somewhere safe. In a blink of an eye, Superman finds himself with Oz standing in the Fortress of Solitude. So he asks him, how? Oz says, I've been here all along. Though I'm not responsible for the global chaos, I may have presented them with options, a choice between the darkness and the light. Superman asks again, who are you? And Oz tells him, I am the one who sent you here. Oz pulls down his hood and Superman says that it is impossible. And Oz says, yes, I have survived. Upon sending you to Earth, I have realized that this is the wrong place. I am your father, Jor-El! Superman yells, there's no way. My natural parents died on Krypton. It would be impossible for you to be Jor-El. He then tells Helix to run a full spectrum analysis. Identify this fraud. Helix floats over, taking Jor-El's robe, and he says Helix will not do that until I ask him. After all, I was the one who programmed him to respond to his inventor first. But continue with the scan. Helix tells Jor-El, yes, sir. And then says that all the DNA sensors, retina scan, and voice analysis are conclusive. May I present your father, Jor-El of Krypton? Superman pauses for a moment and then he says, no, this is all a trick. Just like when Mxyzptlk passed himself off as Clark Kent. Then Jor-El asks, if that is the case, how would I have known where to find you? Or even bring you here? I've been watching you all your life. Jor-El grabs a crystal stating, among other functions, these crystals serve to archive our house's history, all of our experiences and memories. The surroundings begin to change, and Superman watches the final moments of Krypton as Jor-El explains what happened. He had been working on a plan to rescue the people through space travel, but because it was forbidden, the data was erased. With what little resources they had, he and his wife made a small ship capable of carrying a small child, and they sent it off to a place that would welcome him with open arms. There was something that didn't allow him to die, though. As the destruction came, he and his wife began to perish in the flames. However, Jor-El didn't. There was something that didn't allow him to die, and once their world was gone, time had stopped, and he was taken away. Superman asks who could have done that, and Jor-El tells him it is something beyond even him. A being able to bend reality to his every whim. But I was saved for a reason. The reason may be to bear witness to the truth of Earth, to see the nature of its people and what they really are. Jor-El then continues the story, stating how after the explosion his body was rocketed down to Earth, and a group of people took him in. They were poor, but they offered what help they could in saving his life. Every time the government came by, he was hidden in the floorboards until the soldiers took the family's food and left them with nothing but scraps. After healing to a point of walking, Jor-El went out to repay the kindness of the people by stealing back some food. However, the young son of the family went to the government and told them that they had been hiding someone. The soldiers came, and they beat everyone, and all Jor-El could do is shout to not hurt the boy. The military commander said that they weren't going to hurt the boy. In fact, he was going to reward him. To allow the boy to become one of them, he must punish all of the traitors. The man hands the young boy a gun and he says that he can't, but the man holds it up for him and pulls the trigger, telling him, yes, you can. The soldiers laugh, having made the young boy kill his own family, but because the sun had finally come out, Jor-El gained back some of his strength. The rage came and he defeated the soldiers, and then he turned back to the boy asking, shouting, why? The boy didn't answer and he began to shoot at Jor-El, hoping to stop him, but something else appeared and took Jor-El away. When he woke back up, he was forced to watch the history of man. The never-ending cascade of heinous atrocities, one after another. Centuries, decades, and years unfolded, nothing ever changing. It was then that Jor-El learned that Earth was undeserving of his son. Back in the current time, Jor-El shouts, Earth's fate has been sealed. These lost souls don't deserve another second of your life here. Gather your things and family so we can leave here forever, son. During this time, another pair of Oz's followers make their way into the Daily Planet, and Janet kisses JB on the cheek, telling him that he will be remembered for this. Be brave. Over in the boardroom, everyone hears the sounds of gunshots, and JB bursts into the room where Lois, John, and the rest are, opening his coat to reveal a bomb strapped to him. Back in the fortress, Jor-El tells Superman that he knows the shortcomings of these Earthers. It is time for them to abandon them while they still can. And Superman tells him, if it's true that you've been watching me, then you know that I don't run from anything. I'm here to help people. Jor-El shouts, humanity is beyond saving! Just look and see. Helix then displaces a screen showing the destruction across the world, and all Superman can do is witness it. He yells that he has to go, he is needed, and Jor-El tells him, you will always be needed. They are incapable of overcoming anything themselves. Superman takes off into the air, stating that he will never abandon the Earth. There is nothing that you can do to change that. As he leaves, Jor-El quietly says, I wouldn't be so sure of that. And Helix reports that the events of La Gamba are proceeding even faster than his agents predicted. Back at the Daily Planet, Lois tries to buy time with JB telling him, look, whatever your problems are, we can fix them together. JB shouts that they can't take back their lives. The world must know that they print fake news in order to control them. He knows the truth. Oz showed him the truth. Lois tells him, wait, they have a child here. If he detonates the bomb, no one will hear what he has to say. So just let her write a story for him and post it on their site. But first, he has to let all of these people go, and afterwards, she will put anything he wants word for word. JB asks if he still wants to press the button afterwards, what'll happen. And Lois tells him that she prays that he doesn't, but she won't be able to stop him. JB thinks about it for a moment, and then he says, you know what? We can let people really see their crappy lives bust loose. I like it. As everyone is taken out of the building, Lois sits at her computer writing everything that JB is telling her, waiting for the moment when he turns so that she can message the fortress. A sound comes from outside and Lois takes that chance to send her a message. But outside, everyone sees Superman flying up towards the building. JB presses the button to detonate the bomb, but in a flash, Superman has already flown through the window and pulled the man outside before the bomb could even harm Lois. As the man flies back in, Lois stares, stating, you aren't Superman. And Jor-El tells her, I know. I'm his father, Lois. Lois says that there's no way that it could be Jor-El. He died on Krypton. And Jor-El smiles, telling her, same thing Kal said. I was able to persuade him that I am indeed alive before he was taken away by his never-ending battle against humanity's base instincts. I'm also glad that Helix managed to inform me that you needed aid. For a long time, I've wanted to meet my daughter-in-law. Lois begins to question why is it that now he's decided to reveal himself, and before Jor-El can fully answer, Jor-El says, "He is here. Forgive me, but I must go. We will meet again." Outside on the roof, John sneaks up stating that he can save his mom, and a voice calls back to him. John stops stating that he knows that voice. He's the one who was coaching him back at the fortress, and Jor-El tells him, "That's correct. I was able to access the fortress because I am your grandfather from Krypton." John says, "Wait, I thought Dad said his parents died when Krypton blew up." And Jor-El holds out a crystal telling him, "Yes, that was his understanding, but to prove my identity, this Kryptonian crystal will reveal my past and my future." An image appears before John showing him as a baby, and then one of him older, and he asks if that's really him. Jor-El smiles telling him, "Yes, it is you in a few years at your new home." A few moments later, Jor-El brings John to the fortress, and John asks, "How did we just get here?" And Jor-El tells him that he has methods to allow him to travel instantaneously, mechanisms that he has created. But he has a question for him. "How do you like your new home?" John says that Hamilton County was much better than Metropolis, but Jor-El stops him, telling him, "No, I'm referring to Earth itself. Because the longer that you live here, the more you will have to hide yourself. What if I could tell you that I found a world where you would be much better? A planet called Bliss, where everyone is special and no one needs to hide. A place where you could be you. A place that we all must go." Moments later, Jor-El takes John on a walk through a holographic image of Bliss, telling him that this is a place where everyone can be equals, a place where you can live your true life as yourself or herself. Hiding one's true nature is an unhealthy way to live. And John says, "Well, that sounds great, but Mom and Dad will never leave." The images begin to fade, and Jor-El says, "I'm going to be candid. It's already too late. There is a threat out there, one very deadly and unbeatable, one that the Earth has never seen and no one can survive, not even your father. That is why I am here, to take you all to safety But before he could finish his sentence, a beeping goes off, and Jor-El says, "I've kept you long enough. It is time to go." Over on the Daily Planet roof, Superman returns from stopping the crises all around the world to find Lois alone. She shouts that John is missing and may be connected to a man who appeared and claimed to be, but Superman finishes her sentence telling her, "Jor-El." She goes on stating that he appeared and saved her from a bomber, but afterwards she couldn't find John anywhere. But while the two of them go on, Jor-El's voice tells them, "I already know the truth about humanity, and now you do as well. You must realize that there is no way you can raise John in this cesspool." Superman shouts to Jor-El to get away from his son, and John yells back, "Actually, he didn't take me. I went willingly. He was the one who helped me when we were fighting Zod back in the fortress. He just wants the best for us." Jor-El tells him, "Come on, you're finally seeing people for what they truly are. Judgment Day is coming, a threat so massive to the Earth that you and me have no chance of surviving it." Superman clenches his fist, yelling, "This insanity can't continue any longer. I don't know who you are, but you can't possibly be my father. Even if you are, you aren't the hero that I believed you to be." Superman lunges at Jor-El, and John jumps in, grabbing his fist, shouting, "You have to listen to Granddad. If we don't go, we're all gonna die." Superman pulls back and asks John, "What did you say? Did you just call him Granddad?" And Jor-El tells him, "He did. My grandson is an intelligent young man." Superman gets ready to swing again, but Lois steps in between them, telling him, "Wait, what if this is really your father? There's no way you could attack him." Superman shouts, "I've seen the proof. Mr. Oz is responsible for the world's chaos. This man is Oz." John says, "We have to listen to him. He said the Earth is doomed." And Superman says, "The only threat here is him." Jor-El then says, "I am not responsible for today's atrocities, nor the nightmare to come. Evil has won, which is why the Earth's fate is sealed." Just then, Jor-El slams his staff on the ground, and a pink light surrounds both him and Superman. The two are teleported away to an area of ruin, and Jor-El tells him, "I was saved because of him." Superman looks around and asks, "Where are we?" And Jor-El says, "At first, my prison, but now my home, free from the restraints of time and space. This will be our safe haven when the Earth dies." The two float down, and Superman says that if a threat of that magnitude looms over Earth, then he won't be here, he will be there, fighting to save it. Jor-El slams his staff down, telling him, "I've seen enough of your refusal to accept the truth. You won't act to save your family, then I will." A blast from the staff throws Superman back through the wall, and Jor-El follows right behind him, asking, "Can't you see that I'm trying to help?" Superman jumps back up, punching into Jor-El, telling him, "If you knew anything about me, then you would never let that violence happen." After Jor-El is knocked through another wall, Superman steps in to see a room full of drawings, all asking for Superman to please come and save him. He looks around, stating, "Mixopedaling talked about being locked up and wondered why I was never there to save him. It was you who was his jailer?" Jor-El gets back up, and the kryptonite scar glows, shouting, "I am here to save you, and yet you don't appreciate it." A green wave of energy shoots out of Jor-El's eye, and it hits Superman, and he feels the kryptonite weakening him. Superman asks, "How is it even possible?" And Jor-El tells him, "Rather than let it kill me, I have evolved to control it." Superman struggles to stay up, and then he releases a heat blast, shooting Jor-El through another wall. But what Superman finds this time shocks him. Doomsday, someone that Superman sent to the Phantom Zone, is there standing before him. Jor-El shouts that he was the one who discovered the Phantom Zone. Having access to it is simplicity itself. I've taken him here in fear that someone may try to use Doomsday against you. Jor-El turns back and hits Superman with another kryptonite blast, shouting, I've tried to help! This is for your own damn good! Superman is knocked away, and then he looks up, and using what little strength he has left, he lunges out. Not at Jor-El, but at Jor-El's staff. He snaps it in half, and at that moment, there is a presence that is lifted. He looks at the broken staff, stating that this energy is toxic. He felt it the moment that they met. Now the real question is, who was controlling him? Jor-El coughs, stating, You don't understand. The kryptonite was lodged into my skull. The staff relieved the pain and more, but it made me do things. Superman rushes over, but Jor-El tells him to stay back. He is sick. And if he gets close like this, he may be affected as well. He understands the ideals that he represents, what he means to his world, that he won't let them die. The two of them hug, and Jor-El pushes Superman away, telling him that he's coming. He can feel it. Find Lois and John. Fight for them. Save them. Superman calls out to Jor-El, but a blue light begins to surround him, and as he reaches out, Jor-El shouts, Never forget that I love you. Superman's hand extends towards Jor-El's, but suddenly the blue light swallows up Jor-El, and then he is gone. The blue light then fades, and Superman finds himself back in the fortress, and he decides to leave the broken staff there. He returns to Lois and John asks where is Granddad. Superman kneels down, telling him that he couldn't stop him from being taken, but he's out there somewhere. He'll find him. That, he promises. Lois then asks, what about the Earth being doomed from the outside threat and its own people? Superman gets up and he listens, hearing all of the news reports that all of the chaos is still going on, all stating how all of the situations described are beyond hope. Lois reaches out asking if he's okay, and he says, the people are losing hope. I need to get back to work. There you have it, the story of Mr. Oz. It turns out that it was Jor-El. For me, I felt that this could have been a much larger storyline. It could have been more wrapped into the events going on in the DC Rebirth kind of a thing. Maybe a part of Metal, or maybe a part of Doomsday Clock. Either way, it works because anybody can pick up this story and know what is going on. That Jor-El is Superman's father, and there was problems that he was creating. But what do you think about the Jor-El reveal? Do you think that it was okay? Do you think that it was epic? Do you think that we could have had more, or are you happy with this reveal? I honestly want to know your opinions. Don't forget you can subscribe right now to find more Superman storylines, and click the playlist right here to get a Superman playlist, and over here to get a DC Rebirth playlist, because DC Rebirth is coming to the head. Everything is happening and you need to know what's going on. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you next time right here.